Testing audio, YouTube. Testing audio, French, YouTube.
Good morning, Team Transportation. Good morning, clerks. Good morning, legal. Good morning, colleagues.
Why are you so happy today? And we're live, by the way. I was told to point that out immediately. So, you know, no swearing today. Okay, Jeff?
Good morning, Tim.
Good morning.
I was counting bikes. It was delightful.
Oh,
Beautiful
yes.
weather. Just gorgeous morning. Oh my goodness.
Did you scoot or did you bike in?
You know what? I scooted to go count bikes.
Nice.
Yeah, it's I was down at Carlton and Scott. So it's like good view of your tonsils there. So it's like a minute and a half on my scooter, right? And then scoot to the LRT, scoot from the LRT to City Hall, and then I got to scoot down to music venue on Bank Street and scoot home or scoot back to the LRT, I guess. I might scoot home all the way home.
Nice.
I haven't banged up against the range on the new machine yet. I'm curious to see how much range I ultimately get out of it. But that weather is just perfect.
But you like it better than the previous one you had, I guess,
huh? Yeah. Well, it's fast. Probably shouldn't talk about how fast. And the I'm told this one will last, right? So that's for those who are listening for scooter reviews this morning. Buy quality. I mean, I've gone through 2 really poor quality scooters. I'm not happy about that. But there is a new shop on Richmond Road, Repair and Ride. They sell e-scooters and maintain them. And they tell me that I will not be back next year saying, I need a new scooter.
I think I need one for when I, make my tour in the rural areas. Saves some steps between houses.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I did some numbers. I can't remember. I think it was in my first campaign in 2014, in which I measured houses, distance, and doors knocked, and how many doors I could get like per 15 minutes or something like that between the R1, the R2, the R3, and the R4 and the R5.
Wow.
It was I should pull up that analysis. I'm sure I kept it
Like,
somewhere.
was it just like back of the napkin, or did you have some kind of cool app?
Well, I'm tracking as I'm going, right?
Yeah, right. Okay.
And I just made note of times and such, or like each of my shifts was like a 3 hour. I don't want to get in trouble, but so when I'm knocking doors,
all your secret stuff.
knocking doors with information, say, it's a 3 hour shift and X number of doors, and it's in that 3 hour shift, it's a whole lot more doors knocking to provide information during an apartment compared to the R1.
Yeah.
And then of course in the rural area, Scott talks to us about having to drive between doors.
It can take a couple minutes just to walk up someone's.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm looking around the squares. It looks like we have a quorum. But just before I begin, I want to say at the end of this week, Vivi Chi is finishing her term as the Associate General Manager of Planning, Real Estate, and Economic Development. She's done a fantastic job in that role. And I know that Steve Willis has been very pleased to have her help during this time. Vivi is going back to the Director of Transportation and Planning. So we'll see Vivi quite a bit as usual. We love what you do for the city, Vivi. So thank you on behalf of Transportation Committee and Council for the work that you've done subbing in that spot. And
Thank you.
We'll do a virtual
Thank you for your
clap.
kind words.
Thank you, Vivi.
So good morning, everybody. We'll go right to a roll call this morning, Chris.
Happy to do so, Chair. Just bear with me for 2 seconds.
And we are on the unsurrendered, unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Nation.
Councillor Luloff,
I'm so here.
Councillor Dudas,
Here.
Councillor El Shantiri,
Here.
Councillor Deans, Councillor Fleury,
Bonjour.
Councillor Menard,
Here.
Councillor Kitts,
Here.
Councillor DeRuse, okay, Councillor Hubley,
Here.
and Vice Chair Leeper.
Good morning.
You have
And
one,
good.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coordinator. We had no regrets, no declarations of interest. Confirmation of minutes, Monday, the 30th of May, 2022. Are those confirmed?
Confirm.
Great, thank you. Responses to inquiries. There are 3 responses to inquiries that have been included with the agenda. We have 1 item on the agenda today, transportation planning. Yes, Councillor?
I'd like to hold the second inquiry response on the sidewalk repairs.
Okay, is it a brief question to staff?
No, it's a series of questions.
Okay, so it requires 2/3 of members present to add this to the agenda. It would be added as the last item. Members of committee, did you want this item added to the agenda?
Yes.
Carried, yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll add that as item number 2. We also, oh, and I see Councillor Kavanaugh, you have your hand up.
Yes, I
There
did.
you go.
Sorry. Yeah. Yes, and for the same reason for holding, and that's the one on potholes, the inquiry.
Okay, so we'll add that as item 3 in the order because of course I got Councillor Fleury first. So there we go.
Thank
No problem. We do have 1 listed item on the agenda. We've now added 2 more regards to sidewalk repair and potholes. Item 1, I believe staff have spoken to most of members of committee. The Transportation Committee recommend the council approve the conversion of 6 temporary positions to permanent positions in the transportation planning services as described within the report. I know there's a lot of good work going on, specifically around active transportation within these positions. There's no staff presentation, no delegations, and no correspondence. Is this item carried?
Carried.
Great, thank you. So we'll go back to item that was added to the agenda. Actually, forgive me. I also believe Councillor Vice Chair Leeper has an item he wishes to add to the agenda. Is a will of committee to allow Councillor Leeper, if you can describe briefly what that motion is. It's more of a belt and suspenders thing, but
Yeah, it's the usual motion on regularizing driveways ahead of a rebuild integrated sewer work. So I've worked with staff to identify the driveways that would otherwise be non-compliant.
And staff are in support of this. I've been watching the communication circles going around. So is this item added to the agenda?
And
Great,
carried.
and carried on the actual item. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. So we have 2 items remaining. Fun, sidewalk repairs. Councillor Fleury.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank Quentin for his time and the review. It is something that this committee and many members of council have struggled over the years, is nice concrete sidewalks being patched with asphalt. So I have a few questions for staff.
Yeah, giddy up.
I'm just, okay. Hi, Quentin. So Quentin, I wanted to follow up with you on a few points. I recognize that as per the response to the inquiry, there's a number of reasons why your team has chosen and chooses to repair sidewalks with asphalt. Could you maybe give a bit of a policy lens into once your team goes out and patches a sidewalk with asphalt, there's an expectation that there'd be a permanent concrete repair. Could you set out what that expectation is? Like how many years, how many months should a councillor or community expect that that pad to be properly repaired?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your question, Councillor. Most certainly, the work we undertake to both identify deficiencies and trip hazards on our sidewalk network and make those repairs is according to our maintenance quality standards. In addition to the minimum maintenance standards for the province, as well as our AODA requirements, is the methods and the processes that we undertake and according to those legislative requirements to do this work. Most certainly, first and foremost, safety is a priority for us as far as addressing those what we call Class A tripping hazards or discontinuity or deficiencies, where we have, whether it be cracking or heaving of the sidewalk that's 2 centimeters or more. We do have a varying or different methods to address these repairs, one being a replacement of the concrete panel. And obviously we prioritize that within our maintenance group. In most cases, our maintenance group will only replace 1 or 2 panels, just given that we look at kind of that smaller type of repair. In addition to that, we have a vertical cutting method where we'll cut the heaving or discontinuity with a saw to address the tripping hazard or a deficiency. And then also we look to asphalt as well to address that deficiency. Most certainly right now, Councillor, we are working on updating our database and application in order to do a better job as far as capturing those deficiencies. This year, we are doing an in-depth and comprehensive survey of our entire sidewalk network so we can capture those deficiencies and the number of repairs so that we can not only better manage that data, more so on a historical basis in years past as far as when we made the repair and how long the repair is there, but to be able to better report on kind of the number of repairs that we've made in past years to get that sense on length and duration that the repair was there. And most certainly we need to make some improvements in that area to get a better sense on, okay, how many of those asphalt repairs are currently out there today that need to be replaced with concrete.
I was, I'm getting a few. I don't know if it was from our conversation or for the inquiry, the response itself, but last year, when you start doing comparison potholes to sidewalk repairs, you see a massive difference. I recognize it's a different material, but I think the deficiency repair for sidewalk last year was just over 900. And when you look at the budget for street asphalt or for asphalt, we spend 9 million, and then sidewalk, we budget for 3.5, but we barely spent, I believe it was 1 million. So can you maybe comment on how we're identifying the deficiencies and why we're not spending the full sidewalk budgeted amount?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Chair. To answer the councillor's question, we have had challenges in the past few years with regards to obtaining contracted services to do some of these these concrete repairs. Most certainly what we've been experiencing is a very hot construction market and labor market, which has posed challenges with regards to attracting these contractors and vendors to undertake this work, just given that the scale and the scope of the work is very small in comparison to a lot of the larger construction projects that we have underway within the city. So in order to address that this year, we did partner with our colleagues in infrastructure services to pilot a process where we would leverage their tendering and contract process with regards to packaging a lot of these repair works throughout the city to make, I guess, the package of work a lot more attractive to some of those larger construction contractors that are out there.
And do you have the results of that effort?
Currently, right now, council, we're very close to tendering that contract.
Okay. Is that a go forward basis? Like you would tender every year to do larger or like a one package of sidewalks? Because I mean, as council, it sounds bizarre, but in this case, for us not to spend the full amount budgeted shows even a bigger problem than what we're seeing on the ground. Really, it's showing that there's a decay in our infrastructure that we're not upkeeping. So I'm curious to see. You're saying it's a pilot, but is that an approach that will continue to be able to spend the full amount?
Through the chair, most certainly, councillor, if the pilot is successful, it is an approach we will continue with in the future and continue to build upon.
Okay. How do we know how much money budget-wise we would need to to never have to repair an asphalt? Like, what does that number look like?
Mr. Chair, currently right now, we are undertaking an in-depth and comprehensive survey of all of our sidewalk repairs and deficiencies that we have, so that we can not only identify what that number is, but identify the appropriate budget that would be required, as well as a timeline in order to proceed to do the replacement in concrete.
And Quentin, like the number of repairs, budget requirements, and those timelines would come back when? I think it's the response to point number 6 in the inquiry. When would we, from a policy review budgeting perspective, when would we get a better idea of the decision point, say?
Mr. Chair, right now we intend to complete the survey in Q3 of 2022. And then from there, obviously, we would have to do that analysis with regards to budget and costs, timeline, and then look at options as far as how we'd undertake doing these repair and concrete. So within the inquiry response, we identified coming back to council with an update in 2023.
Okay. Quentin, I appreciate it. I know you're new on the role. You're quite engaged with me on, particularly in the BIA areas. I do think it's an issue that committee and council needs to turn its head on in terms of degradation of our infrastructure and repairs to our infrastructure. So I think those numbers and those budgeting will be very important. I want to thank you for taking the time with me and for responding to the inquiry.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Furry. Councillor Kavanagh on potholes.
Thank you, Chair. And looks like Quentin's going to be up again. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're keeping you in the hot seat today, and appreciate all the work you've done. This is an issue that comes up top of mind March and April when we see all those potholes after the winter. And the observations are in terms of what is observed in the city of Ottawa versus the city of Gatineau, and what efficiencies can be made. And I thank you very much for the report and taking the time to go through it with me. I just want to know if there's any efficiencies we've learned from seeing the practice that's happening in Gatineau, because it was observed that they only use 2 persons versus a much larger crew in Ottawa. And I just want you to comment on what efficiencies can be made.
Through the chair, thank you for your question, Councillor. Most certainly, being new to the director role, it was a great opportunity for me to reach out to our partnering municipalities in the city of Gatineau to have these conversations. I know for me, it was great to create that new relationship and that network. Most certainly through that process, what we learned is that the city of Gatineau does experience a lot of very similar challenges and problems to the city of Ottawa with regards to environment and climate. We do know that they also follow a lot of the very similar processes that we do. Specific to the 2-person crew that was referenced, most certainly we leverage a 2-person crew like the city of Gatineau, more so when we're looking at working on lower classification roadways with lower speed limits and lower traffic volumes, such as residential streets. So we're very much have similar processes in that way. And that obviously, as we work on higher classification roadways with higher speed limits, more traffic volumes and so on, the crew complement size grows, not only within the city of Ottawa, but the city of Gatineau confirmed as well that definitely their crew complement size grows as they work on those kind of higher classification roadways. So very much similar in that sense. Also too, we talked a lot about kind of materials as well as processes, and most certainly they use a lot of the same materials that we have. So definitely we learned a lot just around kind of their processes for filling potholes, and that, yes, very much similar to us with regards to how they manage their crew complements and size. Most certainly the differences being too, obviously we follow our maintenance quality standards, as well as provincial legislation and regulation with regards to health and safety, the Ontario Manual Book 7 for traffic control, where they would be a little bit different there, and that they do follow different provincial legislation.
Okay, so if we observe a larger crew, it's because it's a busier road, like an arterial or something. But on a residential street, you'd only have a 2-person crew. Is that correct?
Through the chair, Councillor, that is correct. We do have 2-person crews that work on residential streets. However, our standard crew complement size for completing potholes normally is a 4-person crew. We've got a working crew leader and 3 labor type positions on the crew. 1 to clean the hole, 1 to apply the asphalt, and 1 to compact it. In a lot of cases, Councillor, those crews do move from residential streets to our collector network as well during kind of peak and off-peak hours for rush hours. So sometimes in the morning during peak hours, they will work in the residential streets where you'll see a larger crew complement size. And then after those peak hours, they'll move to our collectors. So if you do see a larger crew complement, in a lot of cases, it's for that reason, is that they'll start on the residential streets until after peak rush hour, and then you'll see them move to our larger kind of minor and major collector networks.
And in the city of Gatineau, do they follow the same procedure? Because the observations were that they stuck to just 2.
Through the chair, we did confirm with our contacts at the city of Gatineau, as if they do move to a higher classification roadway with higher speeds and higher traffic volumes, their crew complement size does grow as well in numbers.
Okay, so is it because our larger crews, and I don't mean to belabor the point, but it's important in terms of the overall costs and how many people we hire. So is it an efficiency in terms of because you're moving faster? Is there any efficiencies in that way? And what is the difference in terms of the city of Gatineau? In terms also in machinery, is there a difference there that helps speed it up?
Through the chair, most certainly we do find that efficient to have that crew complement size of 4 people that I had mentioned. That's our standard. That gives us the flexibility to move from different classifications of roadways. In addition to that, we do find that to be a very efficient and effective kind of method as far as each crew member having specific tasks. In a lot of cases, Councillor, we are working on kind of multiple service requests or multiple potholes at one time, and trying to move as quickly as we can to fill those potholes.
Are we going to, through the chair, are we going to stay in communication with the city of Gatineau in terms of, sharing efficiencies, such as new equipment or new methods?
Through the chair, absolutely, Councillor. As I'd mentioned, I thought it was great that I established that relationship with the city of Gatineau, and we'll most certainly continue to work with them on different technologies, materials, and methods for filling potholes moving forward.
Is there any way to see the budgeting of that, like to see how much it's costing versus, I don't know how you can compare. It's obviously a different size city, but how can we find out what the costing is, like in terms of, to make it fair, the number of streets or whatever work done? Is there any possibility of comparing costing?
Most certainly, Councillor. That's something I can take away and look at and follow up with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. As we're finished with that item, I don't see any notices of motion, no inquiries, no other business today. So we'll be adjourning. Everyone enjoy their summer break, and we'll see everybody back in September. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair and friends.
Happy Canada Day, everyone.
Thanks, Chair. Good to hear that.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.